welcome back to my channel. This will be part 2 of my Storytime series. Let's just get straight into it and let's continue where we left off. If you want more content from me on a regular basis, then I will link below my other social media platforms. Until then, it's time to get into part 2. So as we left off, me and this said best friend had stopped talking. Now, we had separated and lived separate lives. I had made friendship groups with other friends and different people in going to college. And I also had a boyfriend that I was with for quite a while. Quite a peaceful relationship, a nice relationship. Now, there was things that would happen just on your late teenage years, things that would happen at college, other little mishaps. So yeah, this was the time of me finding my feet, experiencing other friendship groups, and actually learning what true friendship was, how different it was to experience that through other people and especially female friendships. So fast forward, I've got a series of friends. I've also had a boyfriend. And in the midst of this, I've been working as a beautician full time, right into the deep end. And I was having a lot of fun. I was in a good place, also just stable, which was really, really good for me. Now, one day I came across a guy that used to go to my school. We ran into each other, and as we would do, you would just catch up. Now, this guy was known to be a bit of a gossiper, so I did take everything that he said with a pinch of salt. He raised an alarm about said friend that she was doing certain things that obviously for me, that when I heard was really, really out of character. But I didn't choose to forget that this guy was known to be just a gossip. He loved to gossip. He loved to just be in the mix of everything. So I took it lightly. However, when I heard what was going on, a part of me that felt like I had to reach out just to make sure she was okay. Because ultimately the friendship had ended, but I still had that love for her, that wanting to know she was okay and making sure she was all right. I ended up reaching out to her, which was obviously a wrong move. The call was taken that I was basically calling her to basically be immature, and the gist I got from it was that she was just not impressed that I called her to tell her this, and that she had something about me and she never confronted me about it. And it basically felt like tit for tat, when I honestly was coming from a place of truly just being concerned and making sure she was okay, but also knowing that this guy could be going around and she could still be talking to him, thinking he was her friend, and he's going around saying this stuff. When I got the response, I was kind of okay with it because we hadn't been speaking, so it did come across maybe random. Yeah, I was just coming from a good place. That basically wrapped that part up. Now, I would say it was around 19, maybe 20, that I was at work, and at this time, it was a point where I was working constantly. I had been just doing the usual stuff and getting on with life. My mum calls me one day randomly and tells me that she was coming from work. She bumped into my old best friend. She would like to come and wait for me at my house. What do I think about it? Should I let her in the house? I felt and I knew that my mum had already let her in the house based on the friendship that we had when we was younger. So I was just thinking, okay, cool, I'll finish in a few hours. Obviously, there's no real hard feelings where it was something so crazy why we stopped talking. So I just gave it the benefit of the doubt. I finished work, I came home, we had a brief conversation, and looking back, it wasn't a good enough conversation, because after that conversation, it pretty much went back to what it was when we was younger and when we had stopped talking. Nothing had really been sat at and spoken about, nothing of any hard feelings, anything from the past. I did voice some concerns, and it was basically not dismissed. Like I said, everything just went back to what it was very quickly and just instantly. At the time, we really didn't actually have a conversation serious enough, but we ended up going to a concert together. We went to the concert, we ended up being introduced to this artist. She ends up talking to this artist, and I'm just going to leave it that point at there. But looking back, it was very strange how we would be back around each other. And the first thing we're planning to do is go to a concert together, knowing full well that we haven't actually established any ground foundation of rebuilding the friendship. However, everything went back to normal. So that was already a red flag. Slowly but surely, I had started distancing myself again from friends, because all my time was now spent with being back around her, catching up about the past, going out and being back to how we was previously in childhood. Not that I was doing it on purpose, but I didn't have time to be around those friends. I'm someone that needs to reboot and be by myself and have that alone time. So any time that I did have alone, I wanted to spend it alone. It was early days, it was nothing crazy at this point, but it was a thing where I wanted to be by myself. I was focusing on my career in the beauty world, and I was doing good. I was really stable. Everything was going very, very well. After distancing myself from friends and friends clocking on, messaging me, calling me and reaching out, and me just literally trying to make up for the time that I had lost with them. But also, I know that it's really unfair that if I had been around them and then I've been then seen being out with somebody else, especially someone else that certain friends had known about and knew what was like, they felt as though it was a thing where I was going back to something that didn't make sense and that was quite negative. And a lot of friends would warn me, but I really used to just ignore it because to me it was my life and I would determine how I felt and what I was doing. And I just thought they didn't honestly know her. And then there was the introduction of us having romantic lives outside of our friendship. Now, I was really dubious because of the past, so I didn't actually like to bring up anything that was going on in my romantic life. But anytime that I knew that something was going on, and I can remember a time when I was talking to a guy in particular that said friend had known in the past, didn't know him enough to say that they were friends, but knew of him. I had actually built a really close friendship with him during my college years. So we was really, really close. There was just always backhanded comments about him. There was just always something. Anytime there was a guy involved and it was on my behalf, there was just always something. Something just felt weird on her behalf. When she would go around or have a guy, it would be really secretive, it would be really weird. They would say things if I met them that didn't add up about me, or I would then find out that she's told them things that were lies about me. I wouldn't ever bring it up, or I would let it build up or put things to the back of my mind and kind of think, no, that doesn't make sense. No, she wouldn't do that. No, she wouldn't do that. It's them. She's told me that they're like this. She's told me that they're like that. So that's pretty much the pattern that was falling for in terms of these little white lies that were being told. So one time in particular, after telling me that she didn't speak to this guy and she wasn't seeing this guy, we went out, and I believe she felt like I was tipsy enough that I wouldn't know, I wouldn't remember. This guy was on speaker. He starts speaking and he starts talking about them being in a romantic situation and how they've been and what he misses about her and all these things. I let it slide because I thought maybe she just wants to keep it to herself. Maybe she wants to be private about it. But the fact that it would happen so regularly, that's ultimately what was weird to me, because I didn't need to know this information. I didn't care to know anything like this. If we're friends, you would be in a space that you would be able to tell each other things. But in this friendship, it just felt like everything was magnified, everything was scrutinized, everything was just weird. Things were hidden, not hidden in a way of privacy, but more so hidden because you know ultimately how you're going on outside of our friendship is just strange. You're lying, you're making things up, you're talking bad about me, and you ultimately don't want that to get back to me. So what you will do is you'll create this little bubble and create this little chameleon suit that you wear, so that when you go around each type of group, you're a different person. That is not what I'm like. I can't deal to be around people like that. I get people have issues and don't feel comfortable being in their skin, but it tends to be that when people are like that, they start to take it out on you. And ultimately, that's what it felt like looking back, and also at the time of the friendship, that's what was going on. As time went on, I realized that things around me wasn't the same anymore, and a lot of things were crumbling. Her coming into my life, I was stable in my work, I had good friendships, and things was going well for me. The moment she came back into my life, things just started to crumble. Work wasn't going good anymore. Friendships and relationships were breaking down and things was going wrong. And I didn't notice it to the extent that I've noticed it looking back, because I chose to ignore the signs. I chose to ignore my discernment. I chose to ignore my gut based on the fact of making sure that this friendship was what it was. Now, we didn't used to mix friendships, but when she would introduce me to people outside of our friendship, they would always come with the same kind of sayings that were I found to be really weird. Oh, I didn't expect you to be this way. Oh, I didn't know you was like this. Oh, she didn't tell me that you done this, or she didn't tell me that you was like this. And I used to find it really weird because one, why would you have that opinion? And two, what is being said about me for you to even have an opinion in the first place? Ignored it and thought it must be miscommunication. This must be this must be that. And I didn't trust my gut. She would then use against me some of the things that obviously was beneficial for her when we was younger. Me being someone that's quite opinionated, someone that's quite strong in saying what I believe in and what I don't think is right. And ultimately, like I said, protecting her and making sure that she was always okay. What I used to ignore, which was someone that really wasn't rooted in who they was, didn't really have an identity, and really would chameleon through life in friendship groups, ultimately anytime. it would be one thing in front of me, and then when we was around others, completely different. And I would see it with different types of people, and I used to find it really weird. But again, I just thought it's because she wasn't rooted in who she was. Maybe some people don't like being in their skin. Some people don't know who they are. They're just wandering around the world trying to find quick fixes to fix a problem that they ultimately haven't found the root of.
A few moments later.
Upon going to film my first true crime video, I realized that my Storytime video footage got deleted. I know it was left on a somewhat mid cliffhanger, and we'll get into that in part 3, and I'm sure I'll be able to do it again. There's nothing I can do. We'll just move with what we've got. I am about to film my first true crime video for this channel. It's about a case that is based in the UK, so keep an eye out for that. Thank you so much if you've stayed until this point. Stay safe wherever you are in the world, day or night, and I will see you all in my next video.